I am Tara Underwood, the chair for the position of the search committee for the position of Vice President of Enrollment Management. Thank you all for attending here locally, and thank you all for streaming in if you're streaming in from other locations. And at this time, without further delay, I introduce Ms. Jennifer Stenander.
Thank you. Thank, thank you all. It's great to be here with you today. I'd love for this presentation to be interactive. So anytime, please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. Okay. Um, so we'll go ahead and get started. The topic is defining and explaining strategic enrollment management and the elements of its success. So that was the topic I was asked to speak on. Strategic enrollment management, it's a crucial element, obviously, of planning, but one of the most important part of enrollment management is collaboration between the departments because it affects facilities as we grow, it affects revenue, finances, academics. So it's just bringing all those groups together to have a true enrollment management group, just admissions recruiting type group. So I thought we would start with the results and then go back to the elements of success. So I would like to share with you all, and some of you have probably seen it, of where we are now here at Middle Georgia. So for fall 2017, our enrollment declined by 4.8%. And usually that looks like about a 6% decline in the spring. So we were able to collaborate, work together, the enrollment action team, the staff that supports that team, and faculty, and bounce back to only a 1% decline. And excited to say that today, as of today, we're up 8% for summer. Our fall, as of June 4th, our head count's up 14%, and then credit hours up 15%. So we're on a great track and have implemented strategies and working across divisions to accomplish these goals and to bounce back from where we are. So any questions about this data? Okay. Also, just want to share with you some additional results. I've been consulting. I left the University of North Georgia 2 years ago. I've been consulting for the past 2 years for different institutions, and enjoyed that, and I've enjoyed working with you all. And I wanted to share some of those results with you at North Georgia, and then also where I have been consulting. We were faced with extreme challenges at North Georgia. And as you can see, in 2004, when I arrived there as Associate Director of Admissions, we were a little over 4,500. So if you can, and I guess this is always give this example, but those big box monitors that when you buy their cream and they yellow over time, do y'all know what I'm talking about? When I walked into the office, that's really where we were. And that kind of explains across the board where we were. And from processing to territory management to communication plans, we just there wasn't even really a foundation. And we were known as the military institution. So there was perception out there, even if you were aware of North Georgia College and State University, that it was only a military school and you could only attend if there were cadets. So we worked on marketing, communications, staff development, training, and the goal that I was given was to increase enrollment every year and to shape the freshman class. So we formed a team. We worked diligently to add the components, first of the admissions office, and then bring in the other enrollment offices to support that. And we shaped the freshman class. We increased what we were asked to do to increase the average SAT and GPA. We built a brand new residence hall, 500 beds, and we were challenged with, okay, we're building 500 beds, but the average SAT and GPA cannot fall. So that, you can imagine, the challenge that we had there. And then, of course, consolidation. and we consolidated with Gainesville State College. And I led the enrollment piece of that through the consolidation. And it's a great opportunity to look at each institution and see what are the best practices and policies across the board. And now we can serve students, from the access mission to selective admission, graduate level, so almost could offer something for all students. We also, at the same time we were consolidating, we opened 2 new campuses. So in Cumming and then in Blue Ridge. And building and retaining a knowledgeable team, I think that's critical to hire a great team, to collaborate, to give them ownership and work together on a common goal. So just wanted to share some of those with you all. And then as I've been consulting, I worked with Gordon State College last year. You can see we increased their enrollment had declined. We increased enrollment by 2.2% in the fall, and then they had an increase of 4% in the spring. And then Columbus State University, we focused just on freshmen and had a 0.5 increase. And then where we currently are. While I was at the University of Georgia, I worked with other institutions as well. Georgia State, when they were consolidating, they weren't in the first group. Those of us who were in the first group had, I think, more challenges than those that followed, and just some advice there. And then ironically, a group, President Blake sent a group from Middle Georgia when Sherry was here up to North Georgia, and we spent 2 days together talking about enrollment strategies and everything. And it was Margot and Leanne Tribble, Leanne Kirkland, so it was, we had a great 2 days together, and then Kennesaw as well. So that's something I've always been passionate about and not afraid to share. I have there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. So if you can share with your colleagues, I feel like you should do that. So has anyone seen this traditional funnel? Are you familiar with? A couple shaking their heads. So this is the traditional funnel, and it's the funnel that many institutions use. The issue with this enrollment funnel is that, if you're not familiar, prospects are students that we may have done a search, a purchase, maybe from College Board or NRCCUA or ACT, based on the type of student that would enroll at our institution. And then inquiries, they've inquired. They've let us know they're interested in applicants and admits. The problem is this is really an admissions funnel, okay? It's not an enrollment management funnel. It's missing collaboration, it's missing the division input, and it's very siloed. So I'd like to share with you when you take another step in terms of the funnel and bring in those departments, and these aren't just the departments that affect enrollment management, but really bring in admissions, financial aid, bursar, and on down, and everyone's working the funnel at every stage of the funnel to communicate with the students to shift that enrollment cycle so they're applying for financial aid earlier. They know about orientation earlier and advisement and registration, so we can have them work through the process earlier and commit to Middle Georgia earlier. This is really the most important piece, I believe, and that's where you bring in all the divisions and work a true enrollment management model. So it's not just the enrollment management division, but academic affairs, finance and operations, et cetera. And you're working with those students from the day that they inquire or that they're a prospect to the day they graduate and then continue to give to the institution. So that's where the collaboration and enrollment management really comes in and work together on these strategies. This is just kind of divided up to give you, a better idea of new students and current students. These do overlap as well. We've been working very closely, depends on the time of the year. You implement the best laid plan. You're as proactive as you possibly can be. And there are many enrollment management managers that I've worked with that said, okay, these are enrollment projections. This is our plan, period. Enrollment management doesn't work that way. And we're going to talk about data in a minute, but you have to monitor what's going on every day and what the data says, and not just these are my projections and I'm going to let them roll, no matter what happens and what variables are involved. So for example, Anna and I and Bashar, we've been talking almost every single day about, okay, where are summer numbers? How many are on the drop list? Where, and she emails me every single morning because she knows that's the first thing I'm thinking about. And it's even a little bit difficult giving this presentation because right now I do wonder, where are those numbers? Where are we going? What are our numbers for fall? Because I'm so kind of engrossed in all the work that we've been doing. But working to recruit and retain our currently enrolled students is just as important as recruiting a new student. So this is a very busy slide, so I apologize. But from analytics, query, and reporting, this is one of the another most important fact in enrollment management. So in the beginning, you lay your forecasting models, predictive modeling, optimization, statistical analysis. That's where you start with. And I'm going to give some examples and kind of break this down for y'all in a minute. So again, you're as proactive as possible. But then you have to look today. No, if Michael's in here, but it's like today, what does our enrollment look like? And how does that affect our projections? And how does that affect the actions that we just decided to take at our meeting last week, for example? So some specifics here are alerts, actions needed, what are interventions based on predictive modeling than actual current performance. And everyone for summer has been extremely proactive, and that's really made the difference. I mean, last year for the second drop, so we have an increase of 8%. Last year for the drop for non-fee payment, you all dropped 120 students. We have an 8% increase, and you dropped 106. So think about that for a second. So all the phone calls, raise your hand if you made a phone call to a student. They made the difference. It really made the difference, that outreach of how can we help you. You're dropped for non-fee payment, or you were dropped because we've canceled this class. How can we help you re-enroll? Do you need to talk to financial aid? Do you need to speak with the counseling office? So it's really incredible the work that you all have done to have that large of an increase and drop less students than you did last year. Optimization and refining strategies and targets practices. We reviewed some of the policies, procedures, and I'll just share a few of those with you all. One was our transient student policy. We were looking at where are there barriers to enrollment. And so for transient students, they're required to submit, of course, the application fee, lawful presence, but then a transient permission letter. They're not required to submit all the transcripts from where they've previously attended, but we were actually requiring those. And so that was a barrier to students who are applying for transient because they're not our students, they're their home institution students. And so we were able to eliminate that barrier where they didn't have to require all the transcripts. It expedited the process. It's the university system policy. And we saw an increase in new students in transients this summer. The SAT policy was another policy that we looked at. And essentially, we were saying, in order for us to review you for SAP, we need to look at your grades from your current semester. But we don't receive those transcripts until right at when we're beginning to enroll. So, we just looked at that policy and said, okay, we're going to check them at the end of the first semester. So these are some examples of just by collaborating and talking and being at the same table, we discover how they can impact enrollment or impact other offices that we're not aware of. We had orientation. Leanne had orientation on the 31st, which was also the day that financial aid was needing to work on the drop list, and late registration fees were being added. So, again, great thing to know. When we collaborate and we work together and we're communicating, we know that. And Leanne Tribble, she's going to look at those dates and make sure it's not on the same date next time. and that really helps. Our Saturday tours, we had Saturday tours. We looked at changing those to open houses. And then y'all do a great thing by students being able to be advised after they're accepted. They can register and be advised. But our orientation numbers are low in terms of students attending orientation. So I know this was really, I don't know how else to explain it, but it was a doozy for us. And all the implementation that went in and all the work from Cheryl and her team. But we did change those over to open houses, and then we put orientation on top of that for those 2 days for all of you who worked those days. But the students were oriented. They were excited. The open house students were excited. And I think we had about 400 or so students that actually registered for both of those, registered at both of those open houses. Some of those students would have registered later, the new students, and some would not have attended Middle Georgia at all. So, and compared to the Saturday tours, I think we increased attendance by about 2,000 or so on both days. We've been targeting and increased communications. Laura's been working really hard on that and getting those communications out, and we really are seeing that difference. Academic suspension and housing. This is another example that Brian was talking about the other week. He's like, okay, so these students are academically suspended, but they can re-register the next day and still be in housing, but they have to appeal the academic suspension, and we don't even know if they're going to be allowed to, their appeal is going to be granted. And it's just another perfect example of everyone being around the table and having these conversations, because he said, I couldn't pull anyone off the wait list. Well, if they're suspended and we don't know if their appeal is going to be granted, he said, I feel like they need to go to the bottom of the wait list. And we said, you're right, So it's another example of when everyone's in the same room, that's true enrollment management, and us all working together to make it happen. One of the elements, we talked about this all day in the different groups, is reviewing our course offerings. I know that John and the academic side is just working diligently on this, but reviewing our course offerings by campus based on what students need to complete their program of study, and then making sure that we're offering those courses and those degree programs on those campuses so students don't have to transfer. We have a lot of students that are at Cochran and they don't want to leave Cochran, but they have to leave Cochran because the courses aren't offered. And then unfortunately, many times they don't just leave Cochran, they leave Middle Georgia. So, again, I know that that's being worked on. And when we look at our fill rates and our overfilled and underfilled or balanced courses, that shows us where some opportunities are to make some shifts in different courses. So if we have courses that are overfilled, that means that we have more students that need that course than we're offering. If it's underfilled, then there's potential we're going to cancel that class. Is there an opportunity to move it to another campus where it would fill? Is there an opportunity to change the type of course we offer that would, maybe an elective that would still fill the same, same course fulfillment for their degree? Those are the questions for us to ask. So, do y'all have any questions? Okay. And so this is just an example I wanted to share with you. Whether we're declining or increasing in enrollment, data analysis is so important in informing us on the decisions we need to make. So when you look here, you see that our summer head count is up right now, increased by 8%, credit hours 14%. But who are those students? Where did we increase? Was it new students? Was it currently enrolled students, males, females? What majors, degree programs, campuses? Where are those students? And if we look at that data, how can we take that, analyze that data, and use that information to build other programs and continue to increase our enrollment? And the same thing for fall. So for last fall, our applications were way up, our accepts were way up, and we have this thing called summer melt. Everyone has summer melt, but we're looking at the data to see who are these students where we experience the summer melt. Where did they live? Did they live, for example, if they were at the Macon campus, did they live right here in Macon? What were their programs? Again, males, females, commuters, residents. Just really drill down that data. And then once we do that, take that data and apply it to this fall and the students we've accepted, and do some targeted marketing to make sure that we don't see that attrition and summer melt with that same group of students. Does that make sense? So increase, in enrollment, decline in enrollment. We just need to learn from the data as we move forward. Oh no, I just love this. Recruiting and retaining the right student body can make or break our institution. And you all have a great group of seasoned recruiters. I know, Pam, I think y'all are just hired 2 more, but great. Your seasoned recruiters are fantastic. And we want to recruit the right student who's the best fit for Middle Georgia, who's going to stay and going to retain. And one thing we've really worked on at open house and the events that we've had is laying out that pathway for students so that when they enter, whether it's a freshman transfer, whatever it may be, that they know their pathway from today when they enter at the university to when they graduate. They know what to expect, and they know if they do their part, we're here to support them get to their end goal, the outcome, graduation, etc. These were some strategic enrollment management, just really notes and goals, to establish goals, identify and secure sufficient resources. I'll let y'all kind of read those. It's really what we've talked about, kind of bringing everything together to make sure that we do continue increasing enrollment and retaining the students here at Middle Georgia. And as we continue to look at the data and look at other opportunities for growth, these are some things I just wanted to share with you. We have been focusing on readmits. There are stop-outs and dropouts. I'm not crazy about the word dropouts, but stop-outs, they're out. They've been out for a long time. They may still live in our region. They may have stopped out of another institution. And then there's the dropouts too. So if they're academically eligible to return, we want to recruit them and encourage them to come back and complete their degree program. This is the rest of their life. Transfers, have some on-site admissions for transfer students, and also any of the technical colleges that have degree programs that do where they can transfer. Sometimes they'll give you their list of their graduates. I mean, there's not much they're going to do with them. You can ask and they can say no, or they can say yes. And many times they say yes, which gives you that opportunity. Students who have completed the FAFSA and financial aid, but not applied for admission. Okay, they're just waiting to be recruited. If they really completed the FAFSA and put Middle Georgia on there, and vice versa, they've completed the application but not the FAFSA. And admissions and financial aid are now sharing that information to recruit those students as well. Let's see. Recruit our own students, associate to baccalaureate, and then to graduate as well. We've really been working on this, following up with every student who drops their schedule or below a certain number of hours, because what's their next step? They're going to drop completely, or if they have dropped completely, we just want to reach out to them and say, hey, essentially, we want you at Middle Georgia. And what can we do to assist? We noticed that you dropped your schedule. Well, I have this issue. I need to talk. Well, we have a counseling. Counseling could assist you with that. Or my financial aid just can't get it to work. I can't accept my award. Well, let's help you with that. And we really started focusing on this when I was at North Georgia. And at the time, my team called it SAVE. They saved this number of students, but we were losing during drop ad 400 students, and we implemented strategies, and we were able to retain 200 of those students. And after the first semester, it was over 90% of those that we had continued to retain. There's a lot of opportunities along the enrollment process as well. Text messages, Laura's got that going. Number of incompletes and complete process. It's really important to communicate, and we've added this to the communication plan, with incomplete students, which are students who have applied for admission and their files are incomplete, frequently, and tell them exactly what they need and how to send it to us. The more we can simplify that and make it easier for them, the more quickly they'll turn in those documents. So, and now I just wanted to open it up for questions, see what questions you all had.
Am I on? Oh, okay. Any questions from the audience?
Sure.
The stop out and the dropout.
I think I said that backwards a minute ago. The stop out has just stopped out temporarily, but the dropout has dropped out for over a year. So if a student now can stop out and if from fall to fall, they're still active. So they could stop out fall and us recruit them, and then they're still active and just re-register for the following fall as long as they're eligible. But then dropouts have been out longer. So, and that policy, the university system implemented that policy maybe, like I said, the years start running together, but 4 or 5 years ago. So.
Someone else had a question? Okay. We just have to make sure you're on the microphone for live streaming purposes. Go ahead. Yeah, they're on the side.
This is a consolidation question.
Sure.
Am I correct that the University of North Georgia and Gainesville consolidation was the only one to actually see an increase after the first year?
Yes.
How? And what did the rest of us do wrong?
I'm not going to say anything wrong, but I will say it almost killed me and our team. But you know, we drilled down the data to who the students were, what their majors were, and recruited them to stay. I mean, as you all that were here during consolidation, it's difficult. You know, you're converging banner systems. We had A, B, and C. I'm sure y'all did too. There's so many sensitivities going on. I said this in a meeting today earlier. You know, I told our team, you know, they were very upset. And I said, go home, be as upset as you want this weekend. Come back Monday morning ready to do what we do best. And they did. And so we looked at the data. We continued with our marketing. We strengthened our marketing. We looked to invoke that emotion in students. We didn't know what our name was going to be. So we're trying to recruit for this fall. And I know later consolidations, they came out, you know, with the name of the institution. All we knew is it was going to have North Georgia in it. So it's like, okay, we need to send a strong message that we are one and that we are all in this together. And so we printed up these T-shirts and it said, "We are North Georgia." And I had to do 3 orders because they were that popular. So it started really, I think, bringing the groups together. And then we developed strategic plans. Once we looked at the data, strategic plans, like especially for the Gainesville campus, because they were already declining, and implemented those strategic enrollment management plans based on where we anticipated the numbers to continue to decline. So in my career, I've been fortunate to just work with amazing teams that were really close, and we've never missed an enrollment goal. But a lot of blood, sweat, and tears hours went into it. But that's enrollment management. You know, it never leaves me. You know, it's it's just part of you. I think if you work in enrollment management, but using that data to guide the strategies, where it was our plan in really increasing Gainesville, because we didn't have much time to do that, and it was a different type of student. It was an access institution, and so it's not like we could take what we were currently using and just apply it. And we spent hours, our group did, in committee meetings and determining our target marketing and how we were going to approach those students. So, yeah. Yes. Oh, I forgot microphone.
So you've had some successes both when you were in-house and then assisting different institutions.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that sometimes, particularly with administrative projects, you set a deadline, and certainly it's very clear that enrollment management is sort of driven by these timelines every year.
Mm-hmm.
But you set a deadline, you get it done, sometimes by the skin of your teeth,
Mm-hmm.
and on paper it looks like a victory, but if you're the
Mhm.
person that has done the work, you know where it could have been stronger, where you could have
Mm-hmm.
collaborated better.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the sort of hardest lessons learned that you've had with respect to enrollment management, and how would you apply them here?
I think some of the most difficult challenges are that when you're enrollment management, you're at least 18 months ahead of maybe where the rest of the campus is. And really you're 3 to 5 years ahead. So helping the rest of the team to realize why you're talking about fall 20 right now and the strategies to make sure that we are increasing enrollment and meeting the goals of the institution. Sometimes that can be a major challenge because they're like, well, okay, well, it's only 2018 and we're doing what we're doing in 2018. But we're always thinking, 3 to 5 years ahead. And then also, for the next fall, about 18 months ahead of advance. And planning for all the variables. I remember when Kennesaw State, they built their residence halls. You have to watch for what's coming. We're like, okay, this is going to have an impact on us. And so we sat down, we put together a plan of action to make sure, because recruiters come in and they're like, so-and-so's hot right now, and it's like, okay, well, why are they hot? Why are their tables, full? And, you kind of have to counter that because each year is different. I think that's hard for some to understand that don't work directly in enrollment management. But I think the key is planning for the demographic shift. We started talking about it, in the early 2000s, and we kept saying 2015, 2020, and it's hard to believe right now it's 2018. But when we're talking about, 10, 15 years down the road, and we're planning for that, I think that has helped us be successful. But also it's hard sometimes to get the rest of the campus on board with that. So, but it's an important aspect.
Thank you. Any other questions from our audience?
Hey there.
Hey.
This is more of a softball question than a hardball question, but
Okay.
so after working in the USG and around the USG and getting to see how different universities work and where they're at, what excites you about working with Middle Georgia State University?
I'm extremely excited about the possibility of working with you all. I've just been extremely impressed by the team, by your energy, the collaboration, where you're going, and I'm just excited about what we could do. The goal is to increase enrollment and retention, and I feel like, John threw out the number at the meeting the other day, 8,000 for next fall, and yeah, look at Alex. Alex is on board. Yeah, I think we can hit 8,000 in a few years. We can be at 10,000 or higher. But it's important. My strategy is always, the numbers are important. They're extremely important. But when you focus on the enrollment numbers, the budget, student success, and the academic. When you're focusing on all that at the same time, I think you're successful. If you're just focusing on numbers, there was one institution that said, "Okay, recruiters, when you go out, you better bring back 30 cards, 30 contact cards." Okay, what's the point? That's just a waste of time and energy. And there was an article in the Chronicle years ago where an institution, their freshman class, they only enrolled 2,000. And they were bragging in the Chronicle because they had so many applications they needed to bring on a night shift. Okay, there's something wrong there, So I think that you have to be cognizant of that and your approach. Did that answer your question? Okay.
All right. Any more questions? Going once, going twice. Thank you so much for taking this opportunity out of your day. I appreciate it. Okay. And just a reminder, make sure you complete the survey, okay? Thank you.
Thank you all. I certainly appreciate the opportunity, and it would be an honor to work with all of you. So thank you.